I always thought video games were a safe zone. No expectations, no awkward silences, just you, a controller, and maybe a friend trash-talking beside you. So when Matt moved in, it was perfect. He was a friend of a friend situation, needed a room for the semester, and I had a spare one going unused. Chill dude, laid back, engineering major, with this lazy surfer energy and a voice that could probably convince you to rob a bank. I didn't overthink it. At first, we were just roommates in the most textbook sense. We split groceries, took turns cleaning, gave each other space. The usual. But by the second month, we'd fallen into this casual rhythm of late-night gaming. Nothing fancy, just dumb shooters or racing games we could laugh over. I'd sit on the floor, he'd sprawl across the couch, and we'd argue about who was the worst driver or which character had the dumbest hat. It felt good, normal. Familiar in a way that made me forget I'd ever lived alone. I didn't even notice the shift at first. But looking back, there were signs, like the time his leg stayed pressed against mine long after the joke ended, or the way he'd sometimes stretch his arms and rest one behind my neck casually, as if we were in some rom-com and I was just too dense to notice. But I did notice. I just didn't know what to make of it. Because Matt was straight. He had exes, a flirt game that turned on like a light switch around girls, and this easygoing masculinity that never once hinted he was into guys. So I kept everything friendly, safe, until the night that ruined all that. It was late, like 1:30 a.m. late. We'd both worked long shifts, came home beat, and decided to crash with snacks in an old co-op game we hadn't touched since freshman year. He'd made popcorn, I'd cracked open 2 sodas, and we sat on the couch like we always did. Close, but not weird close. At some point during the second level, I said something dumb, like, "You're driving like a drunk toddler," and Matt laughed, hard, the kind of laugh that makes him go red in the face. He leaned over, still laughing, then shifted, without warning, and just sat on my lap. I didn't move. I couldn't. He didn't say anything either. He just adjusted his grip on the controller like this was totally normal, like I was just another part of the furniture now. "Dude," I said, my voice sounding way too thin. "Your seat's warm," he mumbled. "Shut up and cover me." And that was it. No big explanation, no grin to tell me this was a joke. He just stayed there, his weight sinking down fully, his back leaning into my chest. I could feel his heartbeat. His breathing, the faint scent of his shampoo, warm and familiar and absolutely screwing with my head. I should have pushed him off, or laughed, or said something that would reset the moment. But I didn't. And neither did he. I kept expecting him to move. I even stopped playing, controller limp in my hands. But Matt, he was still fully committed to the game, like sitting on another guy's lap in the middle of a firefight. It was just how he played now. I swallowed hard, trying to ignore the way his body settled against mine, the weight of him, the heat, the way I could feel his lower back pressing into my stomach every time he leaned forward to aim. He wasn't heavy, but he was there, fully, undeniably there. "You good?" he asked, not turning around, still focused on the screen. I cleared my throat. "Yeah, just trying to figure out if I'm a chair now." He chuckled, finally pausing the game and glancing back at me over his shoulder. "Oh, you want me to move?" He asked it so casually, like it hadn't already been 2 full minutes of quiet tension, like this wasn't some massive, head-spinning shift in our dynamic. I shrugged, keeping it chill. "I mean, I'm not gonna charge rent or anything, but a heads up next time might be nice." Matt grinned, slow, lopsided, and maybe a little smug. "You didn't seem to mind." I blinked. That line. The tone. It wasn't teasing exactly, but it wasn't neutral either. My stomach flipped. Before I could think of a clever comeback, he turned back to the screen and unpaused the game, staying exactly where he was. And just like that, we were back in the mission. Except now, his weight was shifting with every movement, his thigh pressing between mine, his back against my chest. At one point, I moved my hands to get a better grip on the controller, and one of them brushed the edge of his hip. He didn't flinch, didn't say anything. If anything, he leaned in more. "You suck at aiming?" he murmured after I missed 3 headshots in a row. Hard to concentrate when I've got a whole human sitting on me. He let out a soft laugh but didn't move. Excuses. I was sweating. Not from the game, not from the room temp, but from him. From this entire situation, because I knew what it felt like when a guy was just joking around. I'd had enough straight friends do dumb, bro-y things for laughs. But this wasn't that. And it wasn't just the physical part, it was the way he acted like it wasn't strange. Like this was familiar to him. Comfortable, which made no sense. Because Matt wasn't, well, me. He wasn't the kind of guy who flirted with guys. Wasn't the kind of guy who kissed boys in bars or snuck glances when he thought no one was looking. But sitting there with him on my lap, the pressure of his body, the way his shoulders shifted just enough to lean into mine more fully, it didn't feel like a joke. It felt like a test. Or maybe like a door cracking open just wide enough for me to step through, if I dared. And the worst part? I kind of wanted to. I wasn't even playing anymore. Not really. My hands moved on instinct, but my brain had long since left the game. All I could think about was Matt. The pressure of his body, the casual warmth of him, the way his weight felt oddly grounding, and the way he wasn't in any rush to get off me. Eventually, we lost the match. Not surprising, considering I was too busy spiraling to aim properly. Matt groaned and tossed his controller onto the coffee table, then leaned back more fully against me, like he was settling in. I felt his head tilt slightly until it rested near my shoulder. "You're comfortable," he said. "Okay," I replied, not really sure if it was a compliment or a distraction tactic. "You've got like a firm base. Good lap structure," I snorted. "You rating my lap now?" he chuckled. "Just saying, you could charge hourly." I rolled my eyes but didn't push him off. Didn't move at all. If I was honest, I was afraid that if I did, I'd ruin whatever the hell this was. Because it was something. It had to be. Matt shifted again slightly, like he was adjusting for a better fit, and in the process, pressed back into me. Hard enough that my breath caught. He didn't apologize, didn't move away, just sat there, almost like he was waiting for me to do something. And I almost did. I almost leaned in. Almost let my hand drift down from the controller to his side. Almost said something that would make the air between us finally crack open and spill out all the things we hadn't said since the day he moved in. But then he spoke again, soft, offhand, but with a kind of pointed casualness. "You ever think about it?" I blinked. "Think about what?" He didn't look back, just stared at the paused game screen, his voice low. "This, like, you and a guy, a thing." I couldn't speak, couldn't move. Couldn't believe he'd just said that, sitting right there, on me, like it was no big deal. "I mean," he added, suddenly backpedaling, "not saying me or anything, just like general curiosity, hypothetically." But his body said otherwise. His stillness, his weight leaning back, the way his fingers toyed idly with the hem of my sleeve now, none of it was hypothetical. I cleared my throat. "Yeah," I said quietly. "I've thought about it." That got him. He stilled, then finally glanced back over his shoulder. His eyes met mine, searching. Yeah. He nodded slowly, biting his lower lip for half a second before turning back around, like he didn't want me to see the look on his face. For the first time all night, I put the controller down. I didn't say anything else. I just let my hand settle on his waist. He didn't flinch. Didn't move. He just exhaled slowly, like he'd been holding that breath for months. Neither of us spoke for a while. It wasn't awkward silence. It was heavy, loaded. Like everything that needed to be said had already been said, just not with words. My hands stayed on his waist, fingers resting lightly on the fabric of his hoodie. I could feel the rise and fall of his breathing, the occasional twitch of a muscle when I shifted even slightly. He wasn't pretending anymore. This wasn't a joke. It wasn't an accident. Matt knew what he was doing, and he wasn't stopping. Eventually, he leaned forward, elbows on his knees, but he didn't get up. He let my hands stay where they were, and when he finally spoke, his voice had lost all that forced nonchalance. I always thought I'd know if I was into guys. I waited, but lately, he trailed off, then scratched the back of his neck. I don't know, shit's felt different. I swallowed, trying to stay calm, even though my heart was pounding loud enough I was sure he could feel it. You mean, with me? I asked quietly. He turned his head slightly, just enough for me to catch the edge of his jaw, the way his lips pressed into a faint smile. Yeah, he said. With you. I should have been stunned, but I wasn't. Somewhere deep down, I think I'd known. There'd always been something in the way he looked at me when he thought I wasn't paying attention. The way he let our knees stay touching longer than necessary. The way his voice got quieter when it was just us. He hadn't figured it out overnight. But he was saying it now, and that mattered. I didn't want to mess things up, he added, almost under his breath. This setup, living together, gaming, being us. I gave a soft laugh. You're sitting on my lap right now. He laughed too, breathy and nervous. Yeah, I guess that ship sailed. We sat there for a beat longer, the TV screen going dim as the controller timed out. Outside, a car passed on the street, headlights flickering through the blinds. Inside, everything felt still, focused. Matt turned again, more fully this time, until he was facing me, but still in my lap. His knees now straddled either side of mine, and he was close. Closer than ever, and I saw it in his face then, this mix of nervousness and certainty. Like he didn't know what would happen next, but he was ready for it anyway. I couldn't help it. My hand slid up to his lower back. His breath caught. This is okay? I asked. Yeah, he said, without hesitation. It's more than okay. He looked down, like he was trying to gather the nerve to do something. Then back up at me, and that's when I saw it. Whatever wall had been there before, it was gone now. He didn't move for a second. Neither of us did. I could feel the shift in him. Not just his weight, but something more internal. The air between us had gone electric, the kind of tension that doesn't hum, it buzzes. And it wasn't one-sided. I felt it too, like the space we'd carefully maintained for months had suddenly collapsed, and now we were just sitting in the wreckage, close, flushed, and too far past pretending. Matt's hand settled lightly on my chest, tentative, almost unsure. His thumbs moved absently over the fabric of my t-shirt, like he needed something to do while his brain caught up with his body. I've never done anything like this, he admitted, eyes flicking down, then back up. Not even close, I nodded. You don't have to figure it all out right now. His shoulders relaxed a little, like he needed to hear that. But, he said, voice lower now, I don't want to keep acting like I don't feel it. I blinked. Feel what? This. His hand tapped once against my chest. Us. Whatever's been building. Every time I sit too close or pretend I'm just joking, I'm not. I haven't been. I just didn't know how to say it. The honesty in his voice caught me off guard. It wasn't a confession. It wasn't some cinematic moment. It was quiet and real, and that made it hit harder. I didn't want to screw this up, he added. You're not. He let out a breath. I thought I'd freak out more, honestly. You still might, I said, and that finally made him smile. You're such an asshole. You like that about me, I teased. He smirked, and then it happened. He leaned in. It wasn't sudden or aggressive. It was slow, hesitant, like he was giving me a chance to change my mind. His eyes flicked down to my lips for half a second before he closed the distance, and then he kissed me. It was soft. Just lips against lips, a question asked in the quietest way possible. I answered it by kissing him back. His hands tightened slightly on my chest, and mine gripped the sides of his waist again. The kiss deepened, just a little, just enough for both of us to admit what we'd been dancing around for weeks. When we finally pulled back, he didn't move far. His forehead rested against mine. I really like sitting on your lap, he whispered. I laughed, genuinely, stupidly. Yeah, I'm starting to get that. He kissed me again, quicker this time, then settled back into my lap like he'd been doing this forever. And weirdly, it felt like we had. The kiss didn't fix everything. It didn't magically answer all the questions hanging in the air, but it made something very clear. This wasn't a one-time thing, not some random fluke of emotion. Matt didn't kiss like a guy experimenting. He kissed like someone who had thought about it. A lot. He stayed in my lap, arms loosely around my shoulders now, forehead still resting against mine like he was catching his breath. I didn't rush him. I didn't need to. We had time. "You okay?" I asked eventually, fingers tracing a line along his lower back. He nodded, eyes still closed. "Yeah, it's a lot." "Too much?" "No, just enough. That's the scary part." "I got that. More than you probably knew. Wanting something you didn't think you were supposed to want, that was a weight all its own." But he wasn't running from it. He was sitting here, literally in the middle of it, in my lap with his heart still racing. "I don't know what this makes me," he said suddenly, opening his eyes and meeting mine. "I'm not gay, at least I don't think I am. But I like you. I want you. And I don't know where that lands on the label chart." I shrugged, brushing a strand of his hair back behind his ear. "It doesn't have to land anywhere right now." He looked at me like I just unknotted something inside him. "I mean," I added with a grin, "unless you're dying to update your dating app profile tonight." Matt groaned and buried his face in my neck. "Shut up. You started it." "You're annoying. You're still sitting on me." "I like sitting on you." That made me laugh again, not because it was funny, though, yeah, it kind of was, but because it felt good. It felt right. The tension that had lived between us for weeks had finally broken, and now something new was building in its place. Something a little shaky, a little messy, but honest. Matt eventually sat up a little straighter, though he still didn't move off me. His legs were tangled with mine now, and neither of us seemed eager to change that. "So what now?" he asked. I paused, genuinely thinking about it. We keep hanging out. We play games. We kiss when we feel like it. And maybe we figure it out one step at a time. He stared at me for a second, then nodded. "Okay, I can do that." "You sure?" I asked, teasing. "Because it's a lot of pressure, being my lap warmer full time." He grinned. "I'll take my chances." I leaned in and kissed him again. A little longer this time. A little deeper. And this time, he was the one who didn't pull away. Later that night, we were back on the couch. Still playing games. Still trash talking. But now, Matt sat right next to me, pressed against my side, legs tucked up slightly, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Like nothing had changed, and also everything had. At one point, he leaned over mid-match and kissed my cheek. No fanfare. No pause. Just a soft, quick kiss before going back to blowing up bad guys on screen. It knocked the air out of me more than anything else had all night. And I realized this wasn't just some confusing, electric one-night moment. It was the start of something. Something real. We didn't have a big talk. We didn't lay out rules or define it right away. We just let it happen, slow and easy. The same way everything with us had always happened. The next morning, he was still in my bed, fully clothed, tangled in the sheets, mouth slightly open as he snored into my pillow. I watched him for a second, his curls a mess, one foot hanging off the edge of the mattress like he'd passed out mid-stretch. I reached over and poked his side. He groaned. "What time is it?" "Too early. But your ass is stealing all the covers." He peeked one eye open and smirked. "You complaining?" "No," I admitted. "Just stating facts." He reached over, pulled me in closer and mumbled. "You're warm. You're needy. You like it." I didn't argue, because he was right. That day, we didn't leave the apartment. We ordered takeout, watched trash TV, and barely moved from the couch. At one point, Matt curled up beside me again, head resting on my thigh as he absent-mindedly scrolled on his phone. I remember staring down at him, This supposedly straight guy who'd turned my world sideways with one spontaneous seat choice, and thinking, how the hell did we get here? But I didn't question it. I didn't need to. Because sometimes you're just playing video games with your roommate, and sometimes that same roommate sits on your lap, shifts the entire trajectory of your friendship, and doesn't get up. And sometimes you realize you don't want him to.